Hello and welcome to Firearm Freedom. This is going to be another First Impressions video. On today's First Impressions video, we are taking a look at an Infamous TEC-DC9. And before we get this video started, I wanted to give a quick shout out to this video's sponsor, which is once again Seal One. Seal One makes some awesome products, and seriously guys, they're one of the coolest companies that I've ever worked with, and their support for Firearm Freedom continues to blow me away. I love Seal One. I've been using their products long before our sponsorship, which is why it has made this relationship awesome. And they just dropped a new cleaning kit that they're now taking pre-orders for. You guys are going to see that out and about. They have a non-toxic bio-based Seal One CLP paste and liquid. They also have aerosol options along with bow care products and other things. This stuff smells great, and it's what I use to clean guns like this TEC-9. Furthermore, if you guys use the code FF-25, it will get you 25% off of their already reasonably priced stuff. They support my smaller gun tuber channel here, and I would seriously appreciate you guys visiting the website, supporting their company, because they support me here. Oh God, what a what a mess. What a mess this was. Okay, so one of my white whales, the TEC-9. Good old Jack Burton sold me wrong back in the day. Guys, I have waited many years to bring you a TEC-9 video. And yes, I know a lot of you guys that own these guns back in the 80s and 90s are furiously typing down in the comment section like, oh my God, why would you search for this gun? Why would you want this piece of crap? What's the deal? Look, I love 80s and 90s just blaster guns, right? I got my Velocity VMAC, I have my glorious IMI Uzi, which I would consider just the king of my 80s blasters, and I also have my HK SP5, among other various 80s guns that I love, and I love them just for the fact that I saw them in all of these movies when I was a kid, like Kurt Russell using a TEC-9 in Big Trouble in Little China, and I've always wanted this gun. Now, the interesting story for the TEC-9 and me, and why it's been kind of like my white whale over the past few years, oddly, is it was the last, like, 80s blaster, unless I want to get into the Calico subguns and other things like that, that I was kind of missing. I love just the look, and more importantly, the infamy of the notorious TEC-9. One of the very few guns throughout our history that was banned by name in California and later in the federal assault weapons ban. It just has that infamous lore around it, and I just simply had to get one in my collection to complete it. I understand all the stories about them not working at all, and we're going to talk about how this one worked later on, but I didn't care about that. I'm not buying this gun for the reliability, I'm buying it just for the historical aspect of the fact that this was a TEC-9. Back, like, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I passed a bunch of TEC-9s up, actually original just solely TEC-9 models, not TEC-DC9s, which this one is, for like $500 or $600. I thought they were ridiculously overpriced for what they were, and I just could not stomach paying $600 for this. I actually paid a couple $100 more for this TEC-DC9, and surprisingly, that's actually a good price in case you have not been following the general market on Intratec OG TEC-9s and TEC-DC9s out there now. These guns are routinely going now for $1,100, $1,200 in good condition with the box. The price point on these guns is just going like this, and that's what happens with these 80s guns. Yes, they're crappy. Yes, they don't work well, but people love the infamy surrounding these guns, and if you're looking to get one, it's one of those things that you want to get sooner rather than later because this price is not going down. They don't make this gun anymore, and once people start to look for something as the supply goes down and the demand increases, we get insane prices. So I envision these going for even more than that in the very near future, and this one did come with the box and a few other magazines. You guys aren't going to be seeing much B-roll in this because unfortunately, again, Oh, good old Jack Burton did us wrong here with how great his Tech-9 performed in the movie. This actually broke the first range day. And if you guys are familiar with the Tech-9, you're going to see what broke. Now, I should mention that, okay, how did this actually shoot when it was working? The rumors are true. They are horrendous. I think the record of rounds through this gun without a malfunction were 8 until it just had a failure to feed, a failure to eject. It was throwing rounds back into the fire control group, is throwing spent casings. There was a little step bro situation with a nasty double feed. It was everything all over the place. And I kind of knew that was going to happen, so it wasn't like I was super salty. I'm not going to carry this gun. I just wanted it to go bang a few times and to experience it before I put it on the wall for it to just look really cool as just an iconic piece of movie history. And then I decided, let me do one last little string. I'm kind of, it's a pain in the butt to shoot because I only had one factory 32 round magazine, so I'm like loading it up every 2 seconds. And I wanted to do just a quick transition setup where I was shooting one target transitioning over, and I had a few malfunctions, went to rack the charging handle, and as I racked it back, it just sheared off and in half and left the other half of it in the gun. Round still chambered, so that was a pain in the butt to clear this gun once the charging handle flew off, and I was just kind of like, man, that sucks. And really, it all kind of amounted to one of those range days where it's like, I just shouldn't have gone. I know a lot of you guys have probably had stuff like that where it just everything, like Murphy's just killing you for the day. And this was one of those days. I should have just stopped shooting. I decided to keep going, and of course the gun broke, and that's not what you want to see out of a gun you just overpaid for what it's really actually worth. Luckily, you guys can see there that the spring that's sitting there is actually attached to a small little ball detent, which is what holds the charging handle into the massive bolt here. And actually, just by removing that spring, popping out the detent, that piece should fall out, and regardless, I can disassemble the gun and get that out. And luckily, there are actually still a wide variety of parts available for Intratec guns, and the charging handle's like 30-something bucks on Numerich, and they are very available. So, very fixable part. It's not like the gun is like completely out of commission and I just lost all my money. It is still fixable, and I do plan on fixing it. But I wasn't able to shoot it that much. Now, what are the actual positives about when it shot? This thing was surprisingly accurate. I wasn't ready for that, and with how crude and crooked the sights are, I mean, it's all messed up. It surprisingly was right on the money at like 10, 12 yards. It was holding a very good group, even with fast shooting, so that was cool. As far as reliability, it sucked, and I only had one magazine, so, you know, maybe it was that magazine. The other two magazines I had were aftermarket 50-rounders that just didn't even want to lock up into place, let alone work, so I wasn't even going to try those. Magazines are still available for these guns. They're like 35 bucks, so I'll probably get one or two more of those and just see if that was a problem. Also, I fired 115 grain full metal jacket ammunition, so maybe this gun prefers 124s, but because the malfunctions were so all over the place, I really don't know what exactly could be causing that, and it's probably just an unreliable gun. It did suck because although I knew it wasn't going to work, in the back of my mind I saw other people out there on YouTube that had these guns and were able to get through a few magazines without a malfunction. So in the back of my mind I'm like, man, maybe it's just gonna work really well. But alas, the stories were correct that these guns are just terrible. It is one massive sheet metal tube up here, and it has such a vibe to it. I don't know what it is, but just holding this thing, it actually points well, and it's surprising. Now, ironically, I don't know how any nefarious things were done with these Tech-9s, because I just don't even know how somebody would reliably get through a magazine. It doesn't work. Now, of course, these originally, I believe, were Swiss-made guns way back in the day, and they came into the country as KG-99s. Now, that was the first model designation, and that was actually a semi-automatic open bolt version of what we know now today as a Tech-9. And I do think this gun in an open bolt configuration was probably a lot more reliable than when they switched it to a closed bolt striker sort of system here in the gun. That's almost always what happens when you take an open bolt, originally designed open bolt gun. They're almost always reliable, and then you switch it to a closed bolt. I've seen it all the time with Uzi clones, with the new auto ordnance Thompsons. All of those guns, when they switch it to a closed bolt, you just wind up having issues, and that's probably the case here. And I don't know, there's a few different problems that could have happened, and also I think this freaking gun is just, it's tired, Grandpa. It's had a lot. I don't know how many hood situations this TEC-9 has been in and how much street crime this has seen. It's just, it's tired. The springs are worn out. Everything feels loose. It's just, it's had some bad days. So that is probably playing a part as well. I might get new springs and other things. Surprisingly, the buffer in the back of this actually looks pretty good. It's not starting to break apart or get dry. It's actually looking good. Now, what is the difference between a TEC-DC9 and a TEC-9? So the model designation here, you can see, is made by Intratec, and we got a TEC-DC9. This is essentially identical to a TEC-9, but they made the DC9 to be re-compliant for California. California was one of the first states that banned the TEC-9 by name. They just flat out banned the TEC-9, so Intratec got crafty in a little bit of 80s cocaine wisdom, and they decided to rename the TEC-DC9, so it was no longer banned by name in California. Of course, shortly after that, the DC9 saw sales between like 89 and 93, and then in 94 we had the federal assault weapons ban, which also banned the TEC-DC9 as well as the original TEC-9, and the Intratec KG99s were banned back when the ATF said no-go on any open bolt firearms because it was too easily converted into an automatic firearm. So because of that, this was banned in many different situations. It received all of this infamous clout out there, and I don't know that it was really warranted. You have a plastic frame, and these are very well known for cracking. So a part you want to look for is on the back of these frames here, the receivers themselves. Look in the back and ask for pictures if you're looking online, and look for cracks. This is a spot that when the buffers get worn out, these start cracking, and it's not polymer, it's a very, very cheap feeling plastic. It does feel good in the hand. It actually, again, it points well. I didn't really experience any issues pointing it. Now, there is a change in the TEC-9 and the DC9, and primarily that change was as the guns developed, Intratec decided to take the awesome sling mount points that were on the side of the TEC here on the top and here in the front on the heat shield, and they had these awesome, like, kind of welded on sling side mounts, and that was just iconic for the TEC-9. And they switched it on the DC9s to just a single point sling attachment point system here in the rear. Now, thanks to the Firearm Freedom Pocket Gunsmith, who is now beardless in the back of these videos, which is shocking, I know, but clean cut, that's the way to go. I dig it. Now, when we look at this sling, our Pocket Gunsmith was able to donate this to the channel, and it was actually coming with his Century Import AP5P, and it worked incredibly well for this TEC-9. It just looks the part well. It's a cotton black sling, and it's designed to be a single point, or you can have a double point HK clip system, but you just pop the clip into place there, and it's good to go. And then also, we fabricated here a little piece of paracord to clip the sling onto. And once you clip it into place, it is actually super usable, and you can push the sling out and get a relatively reliable cheek weld when you are shooting this gun. I did find, oddly enough, I don't know that it was because it was putting tension on the receiver, maybe it was flexing some things, maybe it provided less ability for me to potentially limp wrist the gun or something like that. When I was shooting it brace with the sling, it seemed to be more reliable rather than less. So I don't know, maybe I was just limp wristing it or something like that. But the sling definitely added a cool vibe. Now, talking about vibes of the gun, this thing's got it. I mean, it just, you can't deny the vibes that a TEC-9 has. Along with the awesome 80s hold heat shield up here in the front, you do have some rather coarse threads, and that's designed for their funky barrel extensions. There are adapters out there to run these suppressed. I don't plan on doing that with this gun when I fix it, just because I'm already concerned about the frame cracking on the plastic as it gets brittle and older. So I just think that's a recipe for disaster, because these receivers are just not the easiest thing to find. Now, when it comes to the fit and finish, it's rough. This one, I was able to clean a good bit of it off, but it is rusting and starting to pit in a few areas. You can really see it well if you shine a flashlight on it. It just lights up all the little tiny rust spots that are starting and underneath the rear sight. So we're having our pocket gunsmith Cerakote this, and we're going to actually Cerakote it the same color which is on my Mac stock adapter here from Stormworks. This stock adapter is painted in this perfect gray color that looks identical to that Parkerized finish that's on the Tech here. So I know Cerakoting it, you're going to ruin the value, but what will also ruin the value is pitting from rust, and that's exactly what's going to keep happening here. I cannot get to the little pieces underneath here, because what's starting to happen is on the inside of the heat shield, that's where it's starting to pit and rust. And that's going to be a big problem because, again, I can kind of clean it. We dunked it in the ultrasonic cleaner to see if that would work some of it out, and it just didn't. So because the gun isn't really that reliable, I'm not too worried that the Cerakoting is going to change that. And also, I want this thing to last. I'm not going to sell it. I'm keeping it as a cool gun, complete in my 80s blasters. I know it's not reliable. That's not why I bought it. I'm not going to be EDCing this gun. And actually, it should look pretty freaking good. So stay tuned for that. I'm sure I'll probably feature that in some photos and everything like that. And also, I'm excited to get a new charging handle because it just kills me to see this thing broken. It's a piece of history that I wanted to keep complete. And just the fact that it can go bang every once in a while is cool. Having it break completely kind of sucks. So you can tell also with that little piece there, it's just crappy cast pot metal that they made that charging handle out of. So it is definitely not a part that I would expect to hold up. Guys, that is going to finish up this first impressions video on the TEC-DC9. If you have any other questions about this gun or anything else on the channel, please throw them down below in the comment section, and I absolutely will get back to you. While you're down there, head up to that description, check out the links to support the channel, and as always, stay tuned for more great videos coming soon.